Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Hello, welcome back to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. Today, our guest is another therapist like yours truly. Her name is Nichole Lee. Nichole is a trauma-informed identity and life transition coach and holistic practitioner whose mission is to help individuals rediscover who they are, heal from the past, and create a life filled with more meaning, purpose, and passion. It's hard not to like your bio, Nichole.
Yay, thank you.
Well, tell us a little more.
Sure.
Do you have your own business? Do you work for an agency? Tell us a little more about that.
Yes, so I am what I call a soulpreneur. I got aligned to this work as my soul's aligned purpose. So prior to this work, I was in business management consulting for 20 years. And I took the true leap of faith from that career in the end of 2020 and really expanded into being an independent in 2021. So I am an entrepreneur, like I say, a soulpreneur, and my business is Nichole Lee Global. So I do work under my organization of me. And that is basically the transition that I went through to do the work that I do now was through my own self-healing and self-discovery journey. So by taking the leap of faith, I took some time actually to rest, to reflect, and also to heal in areas that I really didn't even realize that I needed to heal. With my mother passing, a lot of things came to the surface, and me taking the time to get out of a space that was high grind, high expectations. I traveled a lot. It really allowed me to reset. And so as I went through that journey, I acquired clients along the way more organically. And through that discovery of working with clients and myself, I recognized that my greatest gift was actually helping people see themselves. And so as I went through that journey, that's when I rebranded myself actually with the work that I do now.
It sounds like a beautiful journey, but what I know about beautiful journeys, there might be a time where it wasn't so beautiful. Is that spot on or no?
Yes, I would say, and it's so interesting how we look at beauty.
Mm-hmm.
It was beautiful and uncomfortable, I would say. Right. There was discomfort in the exploration, but there was also a beautiful excitement around the level of understanding that I started to gather about myself that I really hadn't taken the time to, I guess, based on living in a fast-paced world, living under other people's expectations. So I really see the full journey beautiful. I would say it was more tied to the comfort within that journey. Yeah. Well, in my case, and some people, and that's the beauty of what we do. It's really based on what resonates with us and the language and terms that we use. And for me, it was that comfort level, getting out of my comfort zone, really expanding myself and giving myself the grace and compassion and patience to go through that process. Once again, I came from a very fast-paced world, very goal-oriented environment, target-driven. Being in consulting, you're also seen as a subject matter expert. I mean, it's all about your expertise. It's very ego-driven in a sense, right? And so to separate from that, to get more back to my true essence was a beautiful thing to do. However, to what you were mentioning, though, it was uncomfortable because there was a lot of detachment. It was a lot of deconditioning. It was a lot of going into depths of spaces that I had not even entered and was not aware of potentially how to navigate.
Okay. When you're talking about the uncomfort, do you put that on the trauma label too? Do you feel like it's an uncomfortable time in someone's life and some of the beauty comes in towards the the new you are, or the more authentic you are as you heal? Is that part of what you mean as well?
Yeah. So I think as I went through this journey and recognizing how much trauma I'd actually gone through that I had not processed or wasn't even aware of. And I would just take a step back is, prior to me going to this work, I knew of the word trauma, but I was not trauma informed. I was not trauma aware, right? I was not trauma versed. And so I think that was a huge eye opener of one, really understanding trauma and the intricacies of it, right? I think a lot of times we think of maybe some of the extreme cases, murder, rape, etc., but really understanding foundationally anything that creates a disruption in our experience, right, and creates some emotional or physiological response is tied to trauma. So that was very eye-opening for me. And it was uncomfortable at the same time because it started to put pieces together that I had not recognized came together. And that created a sense of discomfort. And I would say some of that was recognizing the impact that others had on how I felt about myself, how I saw myself, that I never recognized. So I think there was a grieving process also of some of the relationships that I thought may have been healthy that weren't. And, having to separate from those and heal from those as well.
Yeah, that's a really important thing to discover and see, right?
Yeah.
What about your background in trauma personally are you willing to share with the audience? And I only ask for as a connection point. I'm not asking for vivid detail about anything. And only share what you are open about, of course.
Yeah. So I've had trauma in relationships more on the emotional side of that, not recognizing that I'd experienced quite a bit of emotional abuse. I was sexually violated at a young age that led to an underage pregnancy and an ectopic pregnancy in which I almost died on the table of trying to save me. I had an eruption, and that was traumatic as a teenager because due to the fast nature of not prepping me, my abdomen actually opened and I had to take care of myself and watch myself heal from the inside out. So that was very traumatic. And then even with my mother passing, there's so many points, like I say, that I realized from a trauma perspective. But with my mother passing, I was her caretaker. And the challenge that I have mostly in regards to my mother's passing, I miss my mother and I grieve my mother. However, I still work through the memories of being her caretaker and watching her decline and having to be the sole caretaker because my mother actually didn't want other people around her. And so taking on that responsibility, though I am so grateful I did, those memories still surface, right? Of what that looks like, working with the doctors, seeing her physically, emotionally, and mentally decline. So those are just a few. There are even more that I've realized that I've gone through, but those are some of the key ones that I've worked through significantly.
Yeah, it reminds me every time I do a trauma timeline with the client, when they start working on it, other traumatic events pop up. It's fascinating, the more we work on ourselves and become more aware of our past and how it's impacted us and could drive our future if we allow it to, in both negative and positive ways, of course. Our goal as therapists is to make it a healthy path, but it's fascinating. The more work we do, sometimes we find more things to work on.
Yes.
How do you have hope based on that? Like, how do you stay hopeful?
Because I would say part of this is my journey. And that's why I always go back to feeling and knowing that I'm a soulpreneur is that this was all divinely aligned for me to show up in the world. So what I even shared, particularly about the teen pregnancy, is something I've never shared publicly, right? Part of why that's come up today is because someone needs to hear that, right? Like,
Absolutely.
right. Someone needs to hear that. Someone needs to feel that. So that is my hope, that me showing up, me aligning to my truth, me showing even still some of the emotional responses that I have, gives hope to someone else that they can make it through. So that is always my intention, is that what I'm doing is to help someone else. And everything that I've gone through, the richness of it is so that someone else feels that they're not alone and that it's possible for them. And so every day, that's what I wake up as my intention is, how am I helping someone else feel seen, heard, understood, and healed? How do I do that? And the best way I can do that is showing up as myself and sharing these intimate, vulnerable stories in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah.
I really appreciate that you listen to your intuition, soul, source.
Thank you.
And deciding to share. I'm very much aligned with that. And I do believe it's a calling what we do, you know. I really do believe that. I've seen it time and time again. And before I would even consider myself a healer, my clients would say that you're very healing. And I'm like, I'm still very messy. I still got a lot going on. I'm like, who are you talking about?
Well, and the thing I love about that, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, when I started to accept that piece of me, like, and then realizing that we all have that capability.
Yes.
It's just, I tap into it. And the more I tap into it, the more healing I can bring to myself and to others. So it is an amazing thing.
Yes. And what I love is my word for the past few years was surrender. And that surrendering did come from others sharing, like what you were saying about yourself, right? Like, you can have these gifts, you can feel something that's different about you. And when you're working with individuals and they say things like that, wow, you're healing, or I've spoken to 3, 4, 5 different therapists, and in this one session, you were able to connect with me, etc. That's when you have to surrender and accept that it's not about you per se in your ego, but you are here to do that work. And I love the other thing that you shared too, is we all are healers. It's just how we do the work may be different, you know, and sometimes we get caught up in, wow, the way Karen does it, maybe that's my healer superpower. And it's like, no, I need to tap into like what my healing superpower is. And when I accepted that, so many things opened up, not only for myself, but for others. And the other thing that I came to learn that made it easier for me to shift was relinquishing this heaviness of responsibility that I am the person that is quote unquote healing somebody. Like, I'm doing something and now you're healed, right? Like, I think that's what
slap on the forehead.
Right, a slap on the forehead, you know, and I think that's where sometimes we don't want to come out of that and claim it, because it's like, now I'm responsible for this person's healing. And ultimately, I'm a conduit, right? I am a facilitator of it. And I think that's what also helps, is I'm moving that way. I've been given a gift that I am gifting to others. I am not accountable and responsible for the way that shows up for them. That's the belief and accountability and responsibility they have decided with us in alignment and agreement. Great, right? And if that doesn't happen, I don't have to, as long as I'm in my integrity and doing my part, I don't have to carry that. And that was a huge thing for me, of not really fully embracing all of who I was initially, because I was like, wow, I'm responsible for all these people. So that was very liberating too, but it took some time to get there. And when I have clients that use that language, I actually reframe it. So I say, hey, we've been on this journey together. I'm just helping facilitate, or I'm on the ride with you. We're on the journey together, so that they're reminded that they are fully empowered in their healing as well.
And they can continue to heal
Yes.
if I were to not exist anymore. Like
Exactly.
I'm not part of that equation for them. Yeah.
And that's
It's so
powerful,
freeing, like
Karen.
you said.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's too, I think, what I've seen. And I don't know if you've seen this. There's a lot of kind of these codependency behaviors that can show up if we're not careful in doing what we're talking about, where individuals now see their power through you. And if there's some level of detachment from you, I can no longer do this. And I feel like that's where our responsibility is, to remind them that we are on the journey, and it is to equip, educate, and help them self-empower themselves, that whether it's with us or someone else or alone, that they can still keep going on the journey.
Yeah, it speaks to what some people might call the victim mentality, which sounds really, really harsh, because when trauma or abuse happens to you, you are a victim at that time.
Yes.
It just doesn't serve you to have that mindset going forward. And it also makes it seem like you have no responsibility in your healing journey, and nobody can do your healing but you.
Yeah.
So I always tell my clients, especially in my membership, I have a virtual healing community for women. And one of the things I say to them is, you don't have to claim the shame of what people have done to you, but you have to claim responsibility for your healing, because there's nobody else to do that for you.
Yeah. And
What do
I
you think
love
about that?
Yeah. And I love that balance with, like you say, with victim. I have found that in the cases in which I've worked with individuals, that I don't feel that sometimes they've actually been able to claim that enough to be seen to move forward out of it. And I think because too, a lot of the language that is out here, particularly in media and social media, is you're not a victim, right? Like if I never had the time and opportunity and space to actually claim it enough to be seen and heard and acknowledged, then it is going to be difficult to move forward.
Yeah. Excellent point.
Right.
Excellent.
And so I think that's what's challenging, is when we weren't inundated with so much of that language, I think people were able to navigate that. So I've actually had to stop and say, hey, let's talk about you being a victim today. Like, let's give you this moment. And you talk about, Karen, the level of liberation of having that moment. And then, like you say, it's like, okay, now you want to be accountable for your joy, your fulfillment, you're breaking free from this. Yes, wonderful. So I think that's the part with us, is to kind of become more curious and better understand, did that opportunity ever happen? Or have you literally been carrying this of not being acknowledged as a victim for 20 years?
That's excellent. Excellent point.
It's
because you have to be validated.
Yeah. And I think for my own personal journey, like I say, with certain things, like you say, and the timelines coming up, that's where I realized where my unhealthy behaviors and patterns continued, because I never really took the moment to say, wow, I was a victim as a teenager. This was horrible, right? Like really. And so once I was able to clear that, it's like, okay, now what do I do with it, to your point? But those behaviors and patterns continue because I was still seeking that validation, and that in these very unhealthy, similar patterns that brought me to the situation I was in as a young woman.
Your body was still processing, whether your mind wanted to or not.
Exactly. Yes, for sure. For sure.
Wow. So tell me more about what your work looks like. Like, do you offer courses, workshops? Do you only see people where you're licensed in your state, or I see that you do some coaching too. So that's worldwide. Yeah.
Yes. So I am a coach. I'm not a therapist. I am a coach.
Okay.
Yeah. I just realized that when we were talking, but yes. So I am a trauma-informed coach. I do work worldwide. My key focus is one-on-one clients. I also just started doing retreats, and I am looking to do more group coaching for those who want a group coaching experience. I find that many of my clients desire one-on-one, because some of the things we're talking about, like the vulnerability, the intimacy, the time and space to go through that. And most of my clients, we work together anywhere from 6 months to even 18 months. The part around me being a holistic practitioner is that I am certified in several modalities looking at the mind, body, emotions, and spirit. So I'm not a traditional coach that's just focused, say, on, getting from one step to the other and, the key elements of the coaching aspect. It does include elements of meditation, energy healing work, spiritual intuitive work, etc. So I am custom in that. So each experience is different for each client.
Well, it's not cookie cutter, it's customized.
Yeah, it's customized, and it's because of, just like we talked about, everyone on their path is at different spaces, and we know that in reality, what we think is the thing today is not necessarily the thing tomorrow, and life is continuing to happen. So that's part of the reason why I shifted to that work. We can be on a path of healing for one key thing, and something else literally happens in your life, and now we need to pivot. So a lot of the work that I do is also helping build that resiliency of being able to pivot even when you're working with a practitioner, so that it feels natural that you can continue to do this, like we were talking about, in your own life. And my focus area is on major life transitions that are typically tied to someone asking the questions, who am I now? What do I do now? Right? Because that was my experience with losing my mother. So that's the focus area. Most people come to me with those types of questions in their head of how do they redefine who they are, but also chart a path for what their next chapter or next phase in their life looks like.
I love that we all have a next chapter.
Yes.
To me, that's so hopeful and inspiring, because it can look like however you design it.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes. And it's not the end, right? It really is the beginning. So whenever we start to look at that chapter, is just one element that when that door closes, there's another door that opens. It does create a sense of excitement along with natural anxiousness of the unknown. But then there's also that excitement of what's possible, right? That you didn't even imagine. I never imagined I would be here. And had I not taken the time to go through that discovery, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you, right? I'd probably still be in corporate, not aligned to my soul purpose, or maybe, universe would have knocked me over the head another way. So
let's believe that.
Well, maybe a little nudge, not attacking.
Nothing violent.
A little nudge, nothing violent, a little tap.
Yeah.
I want to be cautious of the language I'm using.
It was a great catch. Okay, so I heard a little birdie told me that you might be working on a book, and it will be published probably. No, not maybe.
It will be published.
Your book will be published by the time this episode is live.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing the name of your book so people can look for it? It'll be in the show notes too, of course.
Yes. And I love that little birdie sang in your ear. Yes. My book is actually called Who Are You? And it is the practical guide to transforming your life through self-discovery. So it is bringing all the things together so that you can, really understand who you are. But it does bring in elements of things that we've talked about: trauma, your nervous system, the past, your body intelligence, so you can fully understand how your beautiful body, mind, heart, and spirit works together to then craft the life that you desire. So
yes, it sounds amazing. I can't wait to give it a go. Give it a read.
I always say yay. So it's so funny. I'm such a kid. I'm like, yay.
Oh, I see it too. Is that, that's our soul wanting to be more playful. Maybe we didn't have a lot of time to play as kids. I know I was a very serious kid. My family was pretty dysfunctional. So I was a serious kid.
I played a lot. I think what I think it does is, once again, it's the example that you can have that childlike spirit. It never has to go away. And there is a way to bring all of you together. And I think that's the reminder. I am silly. I do very silly things. I say, yay. I have very childlike behaviors, but I'm also very much clear on how I'm to serve in the world. So if it helps someone feel that playfulness come back, because somebody told us that we had to stop being a certain way, right? I mean, we don't grow out of that. It's someone telling us we should grow out of it.
or we didn't have the opportunity to explore it. So it's never too late to explore that.
Yes.
Have fun,
and thank you for that.
life.
Thank you for that, Karen. Because as you mentioned in your experience, not having that, and you just reminded me, I thank you for that adjustment, because I have had those experiences where I work with individuals or even friends that I realized, that they did not have that. And so that coming up is new. So thank you for reminding me that we all have different experiences, and that's why we need to be open. Yes, we have to be open to it. So thank you for that. I love it.
I love collaborating with other people in the healing space, because we all grow and collaborate, and that's why God made more than one of us.
Yes. And you just activated, right? I will now, when I go into other spaces, I will be remembered of that. I always find that we have the opportunity to plant these beautiful seeds, and you just planted a seed for me to continue to water and nurture for it to grow. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Okay. So as we wrap up, I would love it if you could share with us.
Yes.
I hope we can remember these things, because I might forget, because I had a 50th birthday recently.
Happy birthday.
So I'm working on keeping my memory strong. Okay. So 3 things I think I want to ask you. One is your most favorite part of the work you do, and a takeaway for our audience, and then saying your website again if people want to connect with you.
Sure.
You got it?
Yes. The part that I love about my work is I get to see people show up in the way they've always desired, and I get to be part of the journey with them. Like, it is such a beautiful thing to be alongside someone and you get to see the story unfold. You get to celebrate them.
You're gonna make me cry, Nichole.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but it's like that is my false favorite. Like, I'm so you're about to make me cry. Like, I'm so grateful that my soul said, hey, you get to be on the journey with people and like just see their magnet,
sacred.
And then remind them of it. Like, it's the best part of what I do. The second is what would I like leave with someone in closing? I think it was the second one. You are not alone. And it may take a little time for you to find your community, whether your therapist, your coach, the person that really will see you, but they are there. Right. And they will hold space for you. So I ask and invite you not to give up. And that just.
I'm not laughing at you, really. I'm laughing with you.
Yeah. Like, that's my thing I would leave is like, we just talked about hope. I hope that you hearing this gives you the hope that you are not alone, that there are people who are here for you, that they believe in you and they want the best for you. And that may take a little, like I say, a little more time, a little more intentionality, whether if you believe in prayer or meditation or in your walk or your thoughts. I just invite you to continue to just believe that that is possible for you. And my website is Nichole Lee, Nichole Lee, LEE.LOVE. So every time you go there, you'll get a little love. So precious. Yes.
I can't thank you enough for being here today. Can you imagine if we had canceled?
I know.
No, it wasn't meant to be canceled.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for being a gift. Thank you for all the healing work you're doing in the world. And I just want to honor you and your magnificence and just thank you for the opportunity.
You are beautiful inside and out. And people on YouTube will get to see that. So if you're listening, go check her out on YouTube. She's beautiful inside and out.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.